Every moment of your life, you're answering 3 key questions. Take note of them. The first question, what are you focusing on? Whatever you choose to focus on shapes your experience. Right now, you might be thinking about how to apply what you'll learn this weekend, or maybe you're distracted by the scent of the person next to you after all that jumping around. There are countless things you could focus on, but your mind selects only a few. That selection determines how you feel. Focus equals emotion. Even if what you're focusing on isn't true, it still affects your emotions. Have you ever had someone tell you, John isn't really your friend, he's been talking behind your back? At first you might dismiss it, thinking it's a misunderstanding. But if multiple people tell you the same thing, suddenly you start to feel hurt or even angry. Then maybe you confront John, only to realize you were mistaken. Ever been in that situation and felt like a fool? Say I if you have. The most important decision we make, often unconsciously, is what to focus on. Right now, you could shift your attention to the feeling of your clothes against your skin or the sound of blood rushing through your ear. But you don't. Your brain constantly filters information, deleting, distorting, and generalizing to simplify life. The downside, you miss out on a lot. So let's break that pattern. Let's take control of what we focus on. The 3 focus patterns, let me give you 3 focus patterns, and you tell me which applies to you. No judgment. This isn't about personality, just a software setting we can adjust. If I asked you to choose between focusing on what you have versus what's missing, which do you spend more time on? Shout it out. Now let's see a show of hands. Who tends to focus more on what's missing? Keep your hands up and take a look around. That's about 95% of the room. Now, here's a crucial question. If your brain constantly focuses on what's missing, how can you ever sustain happiness, no matter how much you achieve? The answer's simple, you can't. The achiever's trap. Raise your hand if you consider yourself an achiever. But if that's part of your identity, you've likely trained yourself to look for what's wrong so you can fix it. That mindset can drive success, but when it becomes a habit, it robs you of joy. I've worked with billionaires, award-winning actors, and top entertainers. People you'd assume are the happiest in the world. They have wealth, talent, admiration, yet they're miserable. Why? Because no matter how much they have, they fixate on what's missing. Now imagine shifting that focus. If you spent more time recognizing what you have, how would you feel? More alive, more abundant, more joyful. This weekend, if you change just this one pattern, it could transform your life. The impact of shifting focus, when you concentrate on what you have, everything changes. A sense of fulfillment replaces scarcity. Gratitude takes over doubt. How many of you recognize that you already have so much to be grateful for? Yet, many still focus on what's missing even when life has given them abundance. It's not because they lack success, it's because they've trained their minds to seek what's wrong. The good news, that habit can be reprogrammed. Now let's look at another pattern. The second question, do you focus on what you can control or what you can't? At any moment, you can choose to direct your attention toward things within your power or be consumed by circumstances beyond it. Some people fixate on external factors, politics, the economy, other people's behavior, things they have little to no control over. Others focus on their own actions, decisions, and mindset. Which one do you focus on more? Say it out loud. If you spend most of your time worrying about things beyond your influence, it's easy to feel frustrated, anxious, or even powerless. But when your attention shifts to what you can control, your effort, attitude, and response, everything becomes more manageable. Let me ask you, how many of you have ever been in a situation where you felt stuck, only to later realize that changing your perspective changed everything? That's the power of focus. Now, on to the third and final question. The third question, Do you focus on the present or the future? Some people live in anticipation, always planning, always thinking about what's next. Others stay grounded in the now, fully experiencing each moment. Neither is inherently right or wrong, but which one dominates your focus? Raise your hand if you spend more time in the future, thinking about what's next, what needs to be done, or what's coming, and who here tends to stay fully present? If you're constantly in the future, you may struggle with anxiety, always preparing, always expecting. But if you never look ahead, you might lack direction. The key is balance, learning when to plan and when to immerse yourself in the present. Bringing it all together by recognizing and adjusting these focus patterns, what you have versus what's missing, what you can control versus what you can't, and the present versus the future. You gain power over your emotions, decisions, and life experience. This weekend, challenge yourself. Catch those automatic thoughts. Redirect them, because the quality of your life isn't based on what you have, it's based on what you focus on. If you focus on something, you can cultivate gratitude for it. You can feel excited about how much you have. But this awareness only exists if you choose to focus on it. Each of us has patterns of focus that shape our experiences. The second question is, what does this mean? The moment you direct your attention to something, you assign it meaning. Is this the end or a new beginning? Is this a punishment or a challenge? Could this problem be a gift in disguise? If you believe a relationship is ending, will you behave the same way as if you saw it as a fresh start? Of course not. The meaning you assign changes everything. This brings us to the third question. What am I going to do? Meaning determines emotion. If you see a challenge as punishment, you'll feel one way. If you view it as an opportunity, your emotions will be entirely different. How many of you can relate to this? Relationships often struggle because focus shifts. In the beginning, is your main concern about what you can get from the other person? No. When you truly love someone, what do? You give. If they ask you to take out the trash, you don't hesitate. You do it gladly. But after 7 days, 7 weeks, 7 months, or even 70 years, the dynamic often changes. A simple request like, can you take out the trash, suddenly triggers resentment. What do I look like, your janitor? And then people wonder where the passion went. The truth is, if you approach the later stages of a relationship with the same giving mindset as at the beginning, the connection won't fade. Early on, it wasn't a transaction. You weren't keeping score. You were focused on giving. But once you start measuring what you're getting in return, the relationship turns into an exchange. And transactions rarely lead to lasting fulfillment. Let's look at another pattern of focus. Do you tend to focus more on what you can control or what's outside of your control? Think about it. Which do you naturally lean toward? Now let's see a quick poll. Raise your hand if you focus more on what you can control. Look around, about 80% of people here, and how many focus on what they can't control? Roughly 20%. The majority here are focused on what they can control, which is likely why you're in this room today. How many of you came here because you want to take more control of some area of your life? That's why you're here. And how many of you know someone who should be here? Someone who needs this more than you do, but they aren't. Why aren't they here? Because they focus on what's missing. They dwell on what they can't control. They might even believe that listening to someone talk can't change their life. But that belief, whether conscious or unconscious, is simply a reflection of their mindset. Some people believe they can't change. But the truth is, change is always possible. It all starts with focus. But what truly determines change? It's the ability to shift focus. Some people get stuck in patterns of thinking that limit them. They concentrate on what's wrong, what's missing, or what's beyond their control. This mindset creates frustration and inaction. Now, let's examine another key factor. Where does your focus naturally go? Toward problems or solutions? When faced with a challenge, do you immediately dwell on the difficulty, or do you start looking for ways to overcome it? Raise your hand if you tend to focus more on solutions. Take a moment to look around. Now, how many of you catch yourself fixating on problems instead? The difference in perspective is significant. Those who focus on solutions create momentum, while those who dwell on problems often feel stuck. This pattern affects every aspect of life, Think about someone who constantly sees obstacles. They'll hesitate, procrastinate, and ultimately limit themselves. Now consider someone who trains their mind to look for answers. They find a way forward no matter the circumstances. Another important distinction, do you focus more on what you have or what you lack? People who appreciate what they have feel abundant. Those who focus on what's missing often feel like they're always falling short no matter how much they achieve. When you shift your attention to what's available instead of what's absent, everything changes. You begin to see opportunities rather than limitations. You feel more grateful, energized, and capable. This simple shift can transform the way you experience life. How many of you know someone who constantly talks about what they don't have, and how do they usually feel? Frustrated, discouraged, maybe even resentful. Now think about someone who recognizes their blessings and builds on them. They tend to be more optimistic, don't they? This isn't just about perspective, it's about results. People who focus on solutions, on what they can control, and on what they already have, create progress. Those who dwell on limitations, problems, and scarcity remain stuck. So ask yourself, what are your patterns of focus? What meaning do you give to the events in your life? And most importantly, what are you going to do about it? What's missing is your focus. And if you're constantly dwelling on what you can't control, how do you think that will make you feel? Just forget for a moment what you personally believe. Consider it objectively. Is it a mental process? What happens when someone fixates on what's lacking and beyond their control? Think about it. How would that person feel? Come on, tell me. Sad, frustrated, angry, maybe even depressed? That's just how we operate. So why do some people remain stuck in that state? Because they continue focusing on what's missing and what they can't change. And let's take it a step further. Do you primarily focus on the past, the present, or the future? We all engage with all three, but where do you spend most of your mental energy? Raise your hand if it's the past. Now, look around. It's only a small percentage of the room. Why? Because if you lived entirely in the past, you likely wouldn't be here today. You might think about change, but dwelling on what's unchangeable makes progress difficult. How many of you focus mostly on the present? That's where you invest the majority of your time. And how many are future focused? Look around. This is a room full of visionaries. That's the mindset of achievers. They are constantly working toward a better future, and many of you are here for that very reason. So what's the ideal balance? Well, you need all three. But if your goal is fulfillment, staying present is key. If your goal is to build an extraordinary life, the future must be your primary focus. It's about striking a balance between the two. These three mental patterns alone can completely transform your life. Imagine if you walked in here always focusing on what's missing, but instead we trained your brain to recognize the incredible abundance and opportunities surrounding you. If you could truly see and feel that every day, would that give you more or less energy? A lot more, right? That's the game changer. So focus is the first question. The second question is about meaning. How do you interpret a situation? Is this an ending or a beginning? That shift in perception determines how you feel, and how you feel influences the decisions you make. These three fundamental questions, what you focus on, what it means, and what you do, are shaping your life every single moment. Every moment, these three questions are guiding your thoughts and actions. Whether you're aware of it or not, they shape your emotions, decisions, and ultimately your results in life. Now let's take a closer look at meaning. When something happens, do you see it as a setback or an opportunity? The way you interpret an event directly influences your response. If you view a challenge as the end, you might feel defeated. But if you see it as the start of something new, your mindset shifts. You gain motivation, drive, and a sense of possibility. And that brings us to the third key factor, action. Based on your focus and the meaning you assign to things, what steps will you take? Every choice stems from these internal patterns. If your energy is drained by negative focus, and you've convinced yourself that obstacles are permanent, your actions will reflect that. But if you train yourself to recognize progress and see potential, you'll move forward with purpose and determination. Think about it, your life is shaped by these unconscious patterns. But once you take control of them, everything changes. Imagine consistently focusing on what empowers you, giving meaning to experiences that serve you, and taking action that aligns with your goals. the difference in results would be undeniable. So the question is, are you ready to shift your focus, reframe meaning, and take action in a way that moves you forward? Because these three simple but powerful habits, where your attention goes, how you interpret situations, and the choices you make, are influencing every aspect of your life. And the best part, you have the ability to change them starting now.